Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, and today we're going to be doing a little kill count on Thor the Dark World, which released back in 2013. This is the second Thor film and is also infamous for being like one of the weaker MCU entries. It's kind of also become like a running joke that this is like a weaker entry in the MCU. Like even within the films itself, they don't mind making fun of this one.
Here's an interesting story though. About the ether. My grandfather, many years ago, had to hide the stone from the Dark Elves. Ooh.
And the thing is, like, I kinda agree. It's not great. Marvel hired director Alan Taylor to make this film, who was famous for his work on Game of Thrones. It's clear that Marvel wanted to have sort of like a more dark and serious tone for this. You know, something similar to that of a Game of Thrones episode. But that kind of style and that kind of tone doesn't match fully for what this movie is. It doesn't make up for its problems, is what I'm saying. The plot itself is it's very, very weak. Most of that comes down to the writing, which does not give the film's villain Malekith a whole lot of depth. I don't blame actor Christopher Eccleston at all for this, because like he's doing the best with what he's given, and what he's given isn't very much, unfortunately. He's a very, just serious villain who doesn't have a lot going on besides, oh, I want to destroy the world, and that's it. That's all he's got, pretty much. That's it. That's his whole character. He's not given a lot of screen time, and he's just not a very interesting villain because he doesn't clash with Thor's ideals in any big, meaningful way. But I can't lie, despite that, right? Like, there's still moments in here that I actually really enjoy. A lot of that comes down to Tom Hiddleston as Loki. He's just delivering such an amazing performance. He's just so fun to watch on screen. He's really given a chance to shine in this film. He's by far the best part of this whole movie. But will the kills make up for this film's mixed reception? Well, let's get into the movie and find out. As the movie opens, we're presented with a brand new Marvel logo. And I actually really like this logo opening thing. I love the score for it, really. I think it just sounds so big and so epic. I'm a fan of it. But the actual movie itself opens with narration introducing us to the Dark Elves, the mortal enemies of the Asgardians. This here is Malekith, the leader of the Dark Elves, who's interested in using a weird goo known as the Ether to transform the world into complete darkness. We end up on a battlefield, and oh fuck off. Really? I had it so easy with Iron Man 3. God damn it, this is gonna be a big number, isn't it? Alright, just roll the kill graphic. It's a battlefield, so a bunch of people are gonna die. It's a very chaotic scene, and I think it works pretty well for what it is. Malekith goes over and is about to cover himself in beautiful goo, but oh my god, come on, more? We just finished the other kill graphic. Okay, fine, roll another one. Malekith makes quick work of these Asgardian warriors. The Asgardians are just no match for the ruler of the Dark Elves. Malekith realizes he's pretty much doomed to lose this fight, so he decides to sacrifice his own, oh my god. Yeah, so he crashes his own ships to kill both his men and the Asgardians so he can get away. I gotta admit, I was shocked when I watched this part for the video, cause why? there's so many kills so early on. This is insane. Malekith then leaves into the sky, and the Asgard soldiers believe that he's no longer a threat. They then decide to hide the ether deep in a remote location to keep it hidden from any other threats looking to use it for their own gain. Which leads us to a title card. You guys were waiting for me to say it. I can't do it as well as James can, but hey, I did it. I said the thing. Loki is brought in, all chained up. He's being put on trial for his actions in the Avengers. He stands before his father, Odin.
All this because Loki desires a throne.
It is my birthright.
Your birthright was today!
All Odin does in this movie is he's just yelling. This man is just yelling the whole time. It's insane. This is a big performance from Anthony Hopkins, and it's entertaining to watch, When even though he's just kind of being like a big dick the whole time, it's still he's entertaining. You know, it's so big. That's the best way I can describe it. It's big. It's a big performance. He sentences Loki to spend the rest of his life imprisoned in the dungeons of Asgard, as Thor will eventually become king. This leads us to a battlefield where Thor is fighting, and oh god damn it, okay fine, more kill graphics coming up. The Asgardians and these guys known as the Marauders get into a glorious battle. All of these kills happen pretty quick, but I gotta admit, I kind of like the battle scenes in this film. They feel really big and grand. They're effective for what they are. The fight reaches a climax when this big rock-looking dude walks in, just slamming his stick around and everything. This looks like it's gonna be an insane fight. Oh, I guess not. The battle ends and Thor is zapped back up to Asgard, and oh my gosh, it still looks absolutely beautiful. Asgard looks very, very good in this film. It really feels like a lived-in space this time around. Production designer Charles Wood wanted to give Asgard a sort of historic vibe.
And that was just simply a world where we wanted to mix an ancient architecture, or certainly an earlier architecture, into something. As the city grows above us, it becomes much more modern and futuristic.
Not all of it was CGI. He wanted things like vegetation, animals, and more.
Any chance that we could allow to have any vegetation or any animals, birds, horses, we felt that in the first one we didn't feel how Asgard lived, and in this one we try to make sure that we give you that feeling of a full-on city.
I personally think he did a really nice job with it. While a lot of the film might not work for me, I really do think that the visuals of Asgard, like, they really shine here this time around. Odin disapproves of his son's love for Jane Foster and encourages him to look for love more locally. Of course, the God of Thunder doesn't really care about that. His mind and his heart is still with Jane. Speaking of which, here she is right now, on a date with some guy. It's clearly not going very well, and oh shit, is that Chris O'Dowd? Nice. Anyway, Darcy crashes their date before Jane completely dismisses her. Darcy leaves and Jane follows after her, leaving Chris O'Dowd to eat all by himself. Jane and Darcy leave to investigate some strange signals that were being picked up by Foster's equipment. And here we meet a conventionally attractive white guy. This is Ian, Darcy's assistant. That's it. We then learn that Dr. Eric Selvig has gone pretty insane following the events of the Avengers. He stripped absolutely naked and started running around Stonehenge with science equipment. I don't know that. Okay. Anyway, Darcy, Jane, and Ian have all made it to some kind of storage house. They find some kids there who have discovered some portals that can teleport objects or something like that. They throw things and it shows back up. Or not. It's weird.
Are those the car keys?
Jane begins to investigate more of the house when she is pulled into one of the portals. She investigates things and finds the ether hidden away. It latches onto her and she passes out. Meanwhile, up in space, Malekith's ship kicks on and oh shit, someone's a fan of Alien. Love that vibe. Anyway, Malekith wakes up from his beauty sleep and gets ready to head back to hunt the ether once more. Thor goes to have a conversation with Heimdall and asks him to check up on Jane. Heimdall then goes on to tell Thor about the Convergence, a time when all 9 realms line up. He tells Thor that Jane was studying this Convergence, but for some reason he can't see her at this moment. That's because of that weird angry space goo transporting her to all sorts of places. She ends up back on Midgard though, seemingly unharmed. She runs outside and the cops are here, and S.H.I.E.L.D. might be here. And she talks with Darcy, who tells her she's been gone for 5 hours. And also they're about to be arrested. And for some reason she's immune to rain. And also Thor is here.
That's a lot of information to get in 30 seconds.
Jane runs up to Thor and they have a great reunion. Thor explains that he tried to protect Jane by keeping a distance between them. He recognizes that he was wrong and wants to keep her nearby. This doesn't stop Jane from almost being arrested, but all that changes when she makes like an extremist soldier and explodes. Luckily, however, nobody dies, thank God. Thor then takes her up with him to Asgard to investigate things further. She's then put on a space operating table and is given space surgery. Odin, however, is really upset about this whole thing and demands Jane be sent back to Midgard. Asgardian guards move in to remove her, but Jane explodes once more, causing Odin to take these matters more seriously. Odin then explains to the two that the Dark Elves want to take the ether for themselves to cover the world in complete darkness. In other words, what we learned in the intro of the movie. Odin also believes that there's nothing that they can do besides wait things out. This is when Thor's mother Frigga shows up and offers her assistance. Meanwhile, Malekith stabs this dude and puts a stone inside of him to curse him. In the dungeons, the Marauders from the beginning of the film are all being brought to prison. This is where we catch up with Loki, who talks with his mother. She wants him to take accountability for his own actions, but things don't go very well.
Your father.
He's not my father!
Then am I not your mother?
You're not.
Afterwards, in a different cell, one of these guys named Algrim explodes, and it turns out he was a Dark Elf, the same one that was cursed earlier. He's then turned into a guy named Curse because of the explosion. I guess the stone like it cursed him. You got it? Cool. A full-on battle commences, and oh my god. Okay, fine. We can have more kills. Okay, but to be fair, I'm not gonna count them just yet because there's so much just happening. They'll be on the count. Don't worry. Loki tells Curse that he might want to take the stairs to the left. I don't know why I dipped into a semi-British accent, but whatever. But he hopes that by telling Curse this, that he will kill his father and also his brother. Curse will remember that. Thor joins the fight in the dungeons, as does Odin. Before he heads down there, however, he orders Frigga and Jane to retreat to the palace. I guess now I'll go back and count all those kills in the dungeons. We counted 12 people who got killed in this scene. Again, I think this film really nails the battle scenes. They're chaotic and hectic, and they're damn hard to count sometimes. Heimdall runs off and stops this ship by doing this. Yeah. However, there's an even bigger ship waiting for him.
There's always a bigger fish.
Hey, wait, we did this joke already a few videos ago. Wait, I can't just repeat joke. I don't do that. Anyway, the ships begin their own assault on Asgard as Heimdall closes Asgard's borders. Anyway, the ships begin their own assault on Asgard as Heimdall closes their borders. Now is when I'm going to add these guys to our count, and we learned that each ship is flown by like at least 2 Dark Elves, so we're going to count 2 for each ship we count, and in total, 3 ships crash, so 6 go onto the count. Math. Curse makes his way over to Asgard's palace and opens their borders back up, letting more ships in, and okay, fine, we can have more kills, I guess. 2 Asgardian warriors are blasted by a Dark Elf ship, which is hopefully the only group that are killed here. And oh god. Okay, 6 more Asgardian warriors are killed here. Okay, that has to be the last group killed, right? Wrong. I've never transitioned from one kill graphic to another, but more get killed shortly after. But like, okay, surely that's all of them, right? Nope, because we got 33 more in this one wide shot. There's just so many kills in this movie already, and we're not even halfway through. Anyway, the Dark Elves just continue to just destroy everything, just causing havoc, and this sends Odin back up to the palace to defend it. But he does a very poor job at that because Curse and Malekith just kind of get away. They just kind of get away from him, even though those are the 2 that I would have personally made sure to keep a eye on, but that's just me though. Curse and Malekith have then they found Frigga and Jane. So I don't know what Odin was doing this whole time, but that's enough of that. I'm ragging on him too much. Frigga fights back against the Dark Elves, but is soon overpowered. Malekith tries to take Jane, but it turns out the one that was in this room was actually a hologram created by Frigga, or not a hologram, more like a illusion, as this kid would say. Frigga says she won't ever tell them where Jane really is, and in return, Curse stabs Frigga in the side. I'm not a fan of this death. I don't know if that's controversial to say about Thor: The Dark World, but I'm just not. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of it. It's a plot point in the film for sure, but it really is just a classic example of fridging. If you don't know what fridging is pretty much just like when a female character is killed off to just help motivate the male characters in a story. But beyond that though, Frigga just didn't have enough screen time in these movies to really make her stand out as her own character to me. Like, I didn't mention her in this kill count until like just a couple minutes ago, because she just doesn't have much to do in these movies, and they just kill her off. I would have loved to have seen her get more screen time and allowed us to get more, emotionally connected with her before she died at some point later on down the line. But unfortunately that didn't happen. Even though I have my problems with her death, her funeral is really, really beautiful. It has this like serene quality to it. It's beautiful and tragic with her spirit returning to the stars. It's great. While all of this is happening, an Asgardian warrior tells Loki about Frigga, and he's just filled with guilt. Odin has Jane confined on Asgard, much to Thor's disapproval. Thor intends to hunt down Malekith, but Odin suggests they wait for Malekith to come back to Asgard to fight him on home turf. But how many Asgardian lives must die to protect Jane?
As many as are needed!
Thor pieces together that Odin and Malekith might not be so different. This leads Thor to try and sneak off on his own to fight Malekith and move Jane off-world. He puts together a team, and he wants to add his brother onto the roster. Unfortunately, Loki hasn't been taking the news of his mother's death very well. Thor says that while he doesn't trust him, he knows that his mother did, and that's enough. Loki, of course, joins in on their quest. Anyway, Thor gets annoyed of him and handcuffs him, and then Sif moves Jane to their location. Heimdall sets a distraction to allow time for Thor, Jane, and Loki to escape. Together, the trio take the Dark Elves' crashed ship and begin to fly, or at least, or they try to fly.
No, don't hit it, just press it gently.
I am pressing it gently. It's not working!
I just absolutely love Thor and Loki's chemistry, and it's easily the best part of this whole film. Chris Hemsworth and Tom Hiddleston just play off each other so well. With the ship powered up, the trio flies off in a very fun scene.
Well done. You just decapitated your grandfather.
Again, I love Thor and Loki's banter, even if Thor isn't the biggest fan of Loki's yapping. Thor joins Loki on this little getaway ship, and together, they take off for a secret pathway that transports them back to the Dark Elf homeworld. Malekith senses that the Aether has returned to them and gets ready to intercept the trio. Meanwhile, Thor and Loki get into a big argument regarding their mother. Thor says he wishes he could trust his brother, which seemingly cuts Loki to his core. Meanwhile, Darcy and Ian go to pick up Eric. That's it. I don't know why this is here. Kind of ruins the pacing a little bit. I get that it's a setup that, the Convergence has started. But I'm just more invested in the main plot line. So if we could just get back to that would be great. That would be really good.
Okay, time to go. Lots to do.
Back in the film's main story, Thor, Loki, and Jane abandon their ride and get ready to confront Malekith and his army. Thor frees his brother of his restraints, and in return, Loki stabs him and cuts off his hand. Again, that's an important detail, but we'll get into why later. Loki gives Jane over to Malekith and offers to make a deal with him. He can give Jane over to him as long as he can watch Asgard burn. Malekith agrees and gets to work removing the angry space goo from Jane's body. It works, and hey, it turns out all of this was an illusion. Thor calls over his hammer and blasts the ether in an attempt to blow it up. But unfortunately, this doesn't work as it reforms back together. Malekith douses himself in the ether, and where the f*** are you going? Why are you walking away? This dude can murk them in seconds. Where is he going? Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my. I don't know what to make of it. You know what? Whatever. It's fine. It's fine. Anyway, a fight starts up, which culminates in a confrontation with Curse. In the meantime, Loki fights these 4 guys and adds them onto the count. Thor is struggling to hold his own, so his brother steps in to show him how it's done. Anyway, Loki also attached a bomb onto him and blows Curse up in a really gnarly explosion that completely disintegrates him. Goddamn. That's all I gotta say is goddamn. Anyway, Loki dies. There are no movies where he shows up again. How sad, boo-hoo. Okay, moving on. Thor and Jane hide out in this cave where they find Jane's phone. Huh? And it's Chris O'Dowd calling her for some reason. There must be some good cell service for it to be getting a call in space. But it turns out that this is where all the crap they've been throwing has ended up. They walk through the portal and end up back on Midgard.
The world is going crazy. All the stuff we saw.
Fun fact, this little moment here was apparently improvised by Chris Hemsworth. I'm not sure if that's true or not. Yeah, it's on IMDb, and I thought that was neat. If it is true, that's cool. Together, Thor and Jane reunite with the rest of the gang. Meanwhile, on Asgard, Odin hears about Loki's death. So this next bit is a little weird because there's so much lore to explain. But it pretty much just boils down to our characters can teleport with magic devices that Dr. Selvig made. But there's a lot more to it than that that I don't understand. But I have it all written down here, and I don't think anyone really cares. So I'm gonna say it all, but then speed it up by 500% and see if anyone cares. The group begins to set up Selvig's equipment when Malekith arrives. Everyone runs in fear, and so many people just fall down. It's great. Thor and Malekith have their big showdown. Lightning versus goo. Why did I write that? The scientists finish setting up their devices when the convergence is just about to begin. Jane and Selvig begin using their devices to teleport people away. You know, for fun or safety. It's probably more for safety, but who says that it can also be for fun? Anyway, Thor and Malekith start beating each other through these portals, and I actually kind of like this final battle. I think it's a lot of fun to just constantly change the environment like this. Thor even loses his hammer at one point and has to take the subway. It's fun and ridiculous. Thor and Malekith both end up back on Jotunheim and are transported back onto Midgard with a cute little boy. I mean, look at him. He couldn't hurt a soul. Oh. I guess he could. Alright. And right after that, Ian does this shit. I don't know what, or I don't know. I don't know. Eventually, it looks like Malekith will succeed in his mission. The realms are beginning to align, and he's powering up the ether to destroy everything. Thor moves in to stop Malekith, carrying some of Selvig's tech. Thor beats the shit out of him and jabs the machine into his chest, allowing Jane the ability to teleport him away. Jane tries to save Thor from Malekith's ship that is falling, but it looks like she might be too late. Luckily, Selvig manages to teleport it away just in time. And just in time to send it to Malekith and crush him with it. I can't believe that Selvig killed someone in these films. Like that doesn't sound correct. Thus, everything is over. Jane, Darcy, Selvig, and Ian all hang out wondering when Thor will return. Back on Asgard, Thor talks with Odin, who is seemingly forgiving him for committing treason and running off against his orders. Thor then rejects the title of king and explains that he is not ready to take it and insists that Loki knew what it took to rule better than he ever will. Thor then leaves Asgard to return back to Jane, which Odin finally approves of. It's a nice, happy end. Oh my god. Okay, so yeah, it turns out Loki didn't actually die, but whatever, it's fine. He can show up for more movies now, so it's cool. But this actually wasn't always the ending for this movie. The original ending actually had Odin visiting Thor on Earth as he recovered from the final battle, and it also showed Jane and Thor breaking up.
I'm in love with you. After the lightning when the ship almost crushed us, I was content. I was ready to die with you.
But you won't live with me.
My work, my life's work is here. On Asgard, I'm useless.
Thor would then leave back up to Asgard, where he would just, kind of forget about his time on Earth and try and move on. This is such a huge, 180 from what we ended up. It's actually, the opposite of where the movie actually ended. I don't really know why they changed it at the last minute. It seems to me that Thor Ragnarok actually has more in common with this ending. When I say Thor Ragnarok, that's Thor, the third Thor film. It actually seems like it has more in common with this, given where Thor and Jane end up in that movie. So I'm a bit confused and perplexed. Also, this ending it doesn't mention anything about Loki, so I'm going to assume he stayed dead in this one. So yeah, I don't know. It's a strange thing. It's one of these weird things that happens in filmmaking. I don't know if I prefer this ending or the one we got. I feel a little bit indifferent on it, but yeah, I just thought that was interesting to point out. In the post credits, the Warriors 3. These guys are the Warriors 3. They're like Asgardian soldiers, but they're just slightly more important. They don't do anything in these movies, but they're there. They go and meet this guy named the Collector, and they're carrying the ether with them in a box, because that's what you keep goo in a box. And they tell the Collector that it's unwise to keep two Infinity Stones so close together. The Collector promises to keep it safe, but you just get the feeling that that's just not going to happen.
1 down. 5 to go.
In the next post-credits, Thor finally reunites with Jane back on Midgard. Fun fact, that's not actually Natalie Portman. Standing in for Portman in this post-credits scene is Chris Hemsworth's wife, Elsa Pataki. And not being able to make it to reshoots isn't super uncommon or unheard of, but it's the why. It's the why she couldn't do reshoots. That's so interesting and so fascinating, and nobody else will tell you this except for me. So you better listen up and listen down. What does Chalamet say in that Wonka movie? Settle up. There's a dog barking. Settle up and listen down, or whatever he put it. Roll the clip. Just roll that.
So quiet up and listen down. Nope, scratch that. Reverse it.
This film was not always going to be directed by Alan Taylor. Shocking, I know. This movie was originally going to be directed by filmmaker Patty Jenkins, who is the director of such films as Monster and the 2 Wonder Woman movies starring Gal Gadot. Turns out that Patty Jenkins always really wanted to make a superhero film, and it was actually Natalie Portman who helped her get this specific job. Natalie Portman really started to champion Patty Jenkins for this job after the recent release and success of her previous film Monster. That movie was highly successful, and it was received very, very well, and its main actress, Charlize Theron, who nobody knows about, clearly, unknown actress Charlize Theron, she actually won an Academy Award for her performance in that film. So it was, Patty Jenkins had a big career ahead of her, and so it would make sense that Natalie Portman would want her to continue riding that success and want to give her, or help her get this role, this job that she clearly wanted pretty badly. If you wanted to make a superhero film, what better studio to work for than the MCU, than Marvel, who just had this big Avengers movie come out the previous year. Why wouldn't you want to be a part of that, Jenkins's version of the film would have been like an MCU version of Romeo and Juliet, and it would have featured Hela as the film's main villain. But things didn't really go Jenkins's way. The creative committee that is given the final say in these films actually forbade Hela from being the film's main villain because apparently, and I quote from this article that I am reading right now, kids won't buy action figures that aren't male or white. There is no way I can confirm or deny that that statement is true or is something that someone actually said, but if that is insane. I think even like that, like that's just wrong. Like that's just straight up incorrect, I think. But you know what? Whatever. Let's just keep going. Let's just keep digging a little bit deeper and see. Let's continue with this autopsy, as I'm calling it. Jenkins would later pursue a version of the film that would feature Malekith as the movie's main villain. Jenkins would go on to say, and I quote, "I pitched them that I wanted to do Romeo and Juliet. I wanted Jane to be stuck on Earth and Thor to be stuck where he is. And then by coming to save her, they end up discovering that Malekith is hiding the dark energy inside of Earth because he knows that Odin doesn't care about Earth. And so he's using Odin's disinterest in Earth to trick him." I said Earth so many times in that one sentence. Oh my god. But yeah, that would have been the like plot of the movie. It's not too far off with what actually ended up on screen. But that's, but clearly Patty Jenkins didn't get to make her version of this film because she would later get, another draft of the film that really toned down the romance aspect that she was like really interested in. And so because of that, she felt like she couldn't make a good movie out of the material that she was given and ultimately stepped down from the project. Directors leaving MCU projects isn't something that's super rare at this time. You're going to hear me talk about directors leaving projects quite a bit within this whole phase 2 of the MCU because there is a lot of studio interference at this point in time. And there's a bunch of it's this one and another one later on down the line that could have been something really, really great had it not been for studio interference and we had a different director in charge. If you know anything about the making of the MCU movies, you probably know which other movie I'm talking about right now. But yeah, it's kind of disappointing knowing that it could have been made by Patty Jenkins, who I actually really respect as a filmmaker. I really think Monster is a fantastic film. And I think the first Wonder Woman is a fine superhero film. So it's disappointing to read that all of this went down. I really am curious to see what her version of the film would have been like. But yeah, this whole thing obviously didn't sit very well with Portman, who had, championed for Patty Jenkins to get this job. And so she just completely swore herself off from the franchise entirely. She was going to film the movie and then that was it. She was just not going to come back. So that's why she was not available for this post-credit scenes, because she was done. She just didn't want to do this anymore. And you can't really blame her for that either. It's heartbreaking. It's studio interference. Why? You don't know better than the audience or the people or the filmmakers. It's really tragic that things had to, turn out this way for Patty Jenkins. Obviously, she did get to make her superhero film later on down the line with Wonder Woman, and I really hope she had a really great time with that. I don't know though. I don't know anything about the behind the scenes of Wonder Woman. Not yet anyway, but I hope she enjoyed actually finally being able to make a superhero movie. But I think her version of the film sounds really, really good, and I wish we could have seen it come to life on the big screen. But unfortunately, that's just not how things went. This isn't to throw shade at Alan Taylor at all. I've seen a couple episodes of Game of Thrones, the ones that some of the ones that he's worked on. I don't think he's a bad filmmaker. It's just the material he was given, just not the strongest. And I think had the studio not interfered with Patty Jenkins, we could have had something really interesting. I think so. Yeah. Studio interference is a terrible, terrible thing. All of this happens as the Frost Beast from earlier runs wild. He's just having himself some fun. All right, just let him be. Let him be. He's chilling out. But how many kills did we count in Thor's second MCU film? Well, let's get to the numbers and find out. In total, we counted 124 people who died in this film, with 1 woman and 123 men. With a runtime of 112 minutes, that leaves us with a kill on average of every 1.11 minutes, which is not super high, oddly enough, for these movies. I don't know if anything's ever going to beat Captain America at this point. I'll give the completed Gauntlet award to, I don't know, Curse. Curse is not a memorable character in the MCU by any sense of the word, but I gotta admit, his death scene is actually pretty cool. I like the implosion thing. I like that whole thing. The whole implosion thing. I'm a fan of it. The Broken Ultron Bot award goes to these 33 dead Asgardians in this shot. I'm sure they died an honorable death, but it's an off-screen kill, and that's immediately less interesting than every other death in this entire movie. So it's gotta go to them. And that's it. Thor: The Dark World would go on to be pretty successful for the MCU. It wasn't, it's not a bomb by any means, and it helped round out 2013 pretty good for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. They had a pretty strong year, I would say. Next time we'll be looking at the next film in the MCU, which is Captain America: The Winter Soldier, which many believe to be the best the MCU has to offer. But until we get to that, I just want to say thank you so much for watching this video. It really does mean the world that you guys clicked on this. As always, I want to shout out my sister for helping me count the kills in this film, because there's no way I would have been able to keep up with all of that. So, just thank you for helping me out in just any way. It really does mean a lot. And of course, I want to shout out Dead Meat, who I stole this idea from. So if you like this style of video, if you like horror movies, if you like counting kills or learning how movies are made, I don't know why I just said counting kills. Like, you guys do this, you guys might do it as well for fun. That's a possibility. I don't know who you guys are, but yeah, if you thought this video was okay but could have been better with a different sense of humor and a more attractive male host, go over to Dead Meat and go watch their stuff, because they make some pretty insane content. So go do that. Please. Go help them, please. They need it with their millions of subs. But yeah, thank you guys so much for clicking on this video. It truly does mean the world to me that you guys watch my stuff. So thank you. Thank you. Long live cinema.